But your colleague, DC Council Chairman Phil Mendelson, said Monday he was withdrawing the criminal justice bill. Do you agree with his position here?
I do agree with the chairman's decision, and I think is yet another example of how the council has operated in good faith, wanting to partner and exchange ideas with others to hear feedback, to make sure that this was an iterative process, to make sure that the criminal code rewrite reflected the views and the feedback that we received from a wide range of folk. And by withdrawing it, it was another chance for us to do just that. It is my understanding that the Senate is still going to go forth with a vote, which is certainly in their purview to do. But we are still left with an outdated criminal code here in the district. And 700 residents in the District of Columbia still go without representation in Congress. And so the fundamental issue here is that while many are making political hay out of this case, our criminal code is still outdated. The penalties that we have on the books are not meeting the crimes that we have and are seeing in the city. And district residents are still being left out of the ideals and the promises of our democracy.
So is it back to the drawing board with the criminal code, or is this something that is just scrapped?
I think it's too early to say. I certainly will hope that it's not scrapped, but I believe my colleagues and I will have to go back to the drawing board to reflect on this moment and all that we've heard and learned. And I'm truly hopeful that we can put forth criminal code rewrite 2.0 of sorts to make the district safer and bring our criminal code into modern day society.
President Biden said he would not veto the Republicans' decision to override the criminal code reform. I want you to discuss how that made you feel.
The president is in a tough position here. And again, it is an election. And I to opine on the president's motives. But what I will say, it is hard to square the president's commitment to local self-governance for the district and siding with House and Senate Republicans that would want to utilize every opportunity to undermine home rule and self-governance. And so while it's disappointing, I think the focus for me and my colleagues is on how do we take this moment, reflect on it, and put forth a new and updated criminal code rewrite.
I know you said you didn't want to opine on the president's motives here, but do you think his decision was more of a 2024 reelection move opposed to his actual stance on crime?
I can only take the president at his words, and he said he didn't agree with the criminal code rewrite. It was curious that he did reference similar talking points as to House Republicans. And so I can only take that at face value. What I would say is that I would encourage the president and others to read the legislation and go in depth and actually engage with members of the council. We have not had an opportunity to share our perspective and or engage with the White House on this matter. I appreciate those senators and representatives who have been vocal to defend home rule and the district's right to self-governance. And again, I think from here, rather than pointing a finger and or shaming and blaming, our focus needs to be on the next steps to keep the district safe and updating the criminal code.
President Biden's decision there was really the nail in the coffin to the criminal code reform as we know it. Do you think his decision here hinders DC's push towards statehood?
I don't think so. I think the president has remained consistent in his voicing support for DC statehood, as have many in the Senate and the House. I think what we're seeing here is the challenges that we face on the day-to-day basis in the district of Congress interfering with district laws. And so I'm hopeful that this serves as an opportunity for us to bring the temperature down, to talk about the path forward, and for us to hopefully find a pathway for DC statehood in the years in the future.
You did say we are in the midst, at the beginning of an election cycle here. Do you still support President Biden? I know he hasn't officially announced a 2024 reelection bid, but would you support him should he run?
I am a Democrat, and I support President Biden as our Democratic president. I actually think he has many successful items to run on. And given the alternative, which would have been former President Trump, I think many would agree that we won out in that scenario with President Biden. Should he announce his bid for re-election, even despite all of this, I do look forward to supporting President Biden.
Council member, one final question. What do you say to the lawmakers, both Democrats and Republicans, who are against this revised criminal code?
I would several things I would say. We are seeing violence and crime spike across the country. And I don't think that is by happen chance, given how lax our national gun laws are, but also that we are emerging from a global pandemic. I believe it is this presents us an opportunity to address the root causes of violence. And here in the district, we are wanting to focus on the facts and what research has long proved, that the best way to keep our community safe is to prevent crime before it happens. In the instances where we have to hold folk accountable, I believe this criminal code that we've put forth does just that. And it is my hope that wherever folk are on this debate, that we can all agree that DC is entitled to self-governance. And so I hope with that, I welcome those who are willing to work with all of us here at the DC Council as we move forward from this unfortunate circumstance.
And what's next here? Is this still a top priority?
I believe it is a top priority. There are many challenges facing the district as we emerge from the pandemic, as we fight to rebuild, as is the case for many cities and jurisdictions. We are approaching our budget cycle and season here in the district. And so this will certainly be a footnote of the broader conversation of how we move forward. But I don't want to get too far ahead of my colleagues, but I would certainly hope that there is a path forward for us to update the district's criminal code.